Coke?
Yeah, Diet Coke.
And he's not here today.
He's gonna be late, but hi Sean.
Hello.
I'm wondering if he's gonna even make it for the meeting.
Coke,
To be totally honest.
classic Coke versus Coke Zero on Google. Really good taste. You can just see how much sugar is in it. Even though they say it's zero.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Laura, you don't have a spare packet, do you? Dick, I can't really give him mine.
I can let him use mine as long as he doesn't write on it.
Yeah, no,
Or I wonder if
that's
somebody
no
could just
pencil scratches.
re-email it to me again, I had it, it just wouldn't.
I got it right here.
Oh, you got it?
Got it
Do you
right
guys
here.
want to share? I think I do mine after I printed it.
You know what, Rod and Maria can share and they'll give
Oh,
him
okay.
theirs, because then it doesn't, then you can write on it and do whatever you want.
Well, you can.
Okay, here's what I
got.
got. Let me see what works.
Stuff written down.
Load more.
Technology's not always our friend.
She was
I'm here to tell you.
With everything you got.
Oh,
You can
boy,
you
I
can
tell
write
you.
on mine or.
Every once in a while, I see individuals in there.
I don't know. Who wants it? Hello there. How you doing? Good. Good
You
kid.
can write on this too if you need to.
Thank you very much. You might show up. Kind of like me.
I gave you this to make
How are you?
too.
This is what I wanted.
It's crazy.
So,
Seemed to hit the week every
what's your
month.
report? Come on now.
Okay, I think this is as close to a full group as we're going to have here. So with the quorum of the board present, I call the meeting to order, and we will start with a roll call of the commissioners. Obviously, Commissioner Buck is not present. Commissioner Rooney,
Here.
Commissioner Holman,
Present.
Commissioner Debbie.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Swenson,
Here.
Commissioner Evans present, and Commissioner Talcott, board chairperson, delayed, and we'll see if he's present eventually. So could we stand please for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I beg everyone's tolerance and indulgence as I fumble my way through this, because I didn't have an opportunity to visit with our chairperson or our airport director, so we'll do the best we can all together. First, I'd like to restate that the mission of the Great Falls International Airport Authority is to optimize transportation services and development in our region. The vision of the GFIAA is to maximize the airport's benefit to our region. We start each meeting with our consent agenda. And I'm sorry, do we usually introduce guests first? We don't, do we? Okay. It's funny how you just kind of go on automatic until you're actually the one doing the meeting. Okay, we start with our consent agenda, which is, as you know, made up of routine day-to-day items that require action but don't have a significant public impact. Items may be pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion or vote by any board member. This month we have 5 items: the approval of the board meeting minutes from May 26, 2015, the payroll checks totaling $69,602.34, the maintenance and operation checks in the series 21481 through 21546, totaling $384,915.20. The next item, approval of passenger facility charge totaling $50,000. And finally, the financial reports for May. Is there any request to pull any item from the consent agenda this time? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion, comment? If not, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda items as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes. I understand we will not have an executive director report because the executive director is in Chicago meeting with United Airlines today. So that's unfortunate because we look forward to this part of the meeting where we get the entire report. So we'll have to bypass that item. There's nothing to contribute at this point, right? Okay. Laura is actually standing in for John in this meeting, so we'll be asking her help for some of the items here. So moving into the regular business items then, we have number 1, the acceptance, let me get there. Item 1, acceptance of the Airport Improvement Program Grant 61, which is an entitlement grant, and you've got the background on that and the history here. I was going to ask one question on the part 2 of this item. We're talking Sydney, Montana Airport, right?
Yes.
Okay, Sydney, Montana. And so this has been discussed previously.
Just to give a quick
Sure.
overview here, Deb. We've already accepted all of the construction bids, the different things that we're going to spend the money on. So this is for the entry road and for design for the taxiway that will come up that we will do construction on in 2016, and then for the $301,000 to complete. Oh, no, I was thinking that we had the other one separate for the parking lot over here. So this $2,662,829, we would accept to pay for those things that you guys have already given us the approval to move forward with. If we don't accept this grant, then we probably need to go back and change some things on those other items. But we canceled the construction for taxiway C1. I think I may have said Alpha, but for C1. So we will do that next year. And so we're allowed to do this where we will send $282,000 plus over to Sydney. They'll use it this year. Next year they'll pay us back, and we'll get our other entitlement grant next year and be able to do the taxiway. So we're approving that, or we are recommending that we accept the AIP grant 61 in the amount of $2,062,829.
Thank you.
You bet.
Very well explained. So, questions, comments, discussion on this item?
How does Sydney pay it back? Laura?
They will get the entitlements next year. They're just, they have them slated for next year. We have them this year, so we can just give them to them. They're ready to go. That's why we get our plans in place years in advance so that we're ready to move quickly. And that's how you do get these grants a little faster too, if you're prepared.
Thanks.
So are we actually, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
Oh, are we actually cutting them a check for $282,000?
No, we're receiving.
We will receive the $2 million, and yes, we'll send a check over to Sydney, and then they will send us a check back next year when they get it.
Okay.
It's pretty common practice. We'll have everything in place that shows the paper trail that they have to give us the money back. It's not, they don't get to say next year.
If they haven't.
The FAA has already said that they will be programmed for their $282,000 for
It'll come
next
out of
year.
their grant next year.
It's like a pledge by FAA to,
And the FAA never changes its mind, rescinds its grants,
Never.
or changes anything at all?
we had something like that 3 years ago or so happen. I think it was Butte, right? that
We borrowed money from.
We borrowed money from Butte from their allotment, entitlement, and then we got it, and then they got it. It's just, FAA allows that to happen.
They charge you interest?
No.
Is it regular note? Do you just,
This is swap.
It's just a swap.
You said it's common practice. I assume there's a little bit of boilerplate paperwork that's put in place to ensure that it goes off smoothly.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say this would be considered unusual in most of our, in most of our business dealings, so.
Right.
Yeah, it just seems a little unusual, but understand that it is common practice. So we're actually looking for motion to approve the staff recommendation.
A motion to approve the Airport Improvement Program Grant 61 is written.
Second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the staff recommendation for AIP Grant 61 in the amount of $2,062,829. Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Number 2 on the agenda today is the car condo amendment. And we talked about this, was it just last month? Sometimes it's
Yes.
hard to remember. This was where the car condo on the corner of the property is contemplating continuing in the phases they had planned in their original development plan. And so at this point, we are recommending that this, what's now going to be the final phase of this expansion in the current location, be approved with the notation of what they are paying per square foot annually and additional ground included for total additional revenue of $2,200. Anything to add to that?
Just that this piece squares off their existing, so it's not, we have told them that we're not going to allow them to go up to their 7 phases, so this will just square off what they currently have, and it's a little piece that we wouldn't be able to use necessarily with parking, so that's why we recommend going ahead and approving this. And they do want to start construction this year if they can get this going.
I wasn't here last month. How come you didn't want them to go through all 7 phases?
So we had done this back in '03, and obviously we've just gotten busier, and we've needed this space out here for passenger parking. And when you do the math on the passenger parking versus the car condos, there's quite a discrepancy in our favor of passenger parking.
Okay.
So their next phases, you have that sheet that shows behind this, their next phases just kept pushing out up against the parking. So when we realized that we were getting kind of short there of parking, we knew that we needed to take that land back. And so we offered some other choices to them, and they were fine with that. They understood. And so this isn't saying that they can't go someplace else and do some more car condos, but just right there, we have to preserve that space that's left for passenger parking. So we just kind of stopped where they were and said, let's find a new spot.
Okay, so you have the recommendation there. Again, we're looking for action to accept the staff recommendation about the car condo expansion.
I move that we accept the recommendation.
Second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation allowing expansion of the final phase in the current location for the car condos. Is there Any additional discussion, questions? We did spend quite a bit of time at the last meeting, I think, talking about the parking option in particular, since we're always looking for parking option. We pretty much hashed that over pretty thoroughly, I think. There's no other question or comment? Call the question then. All of those in favor of the recommendation, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Let's see here. The next item has to do with the passenger facility charge application. This is recommendation to prepare a new passenger facility charge application. This replaces the authorization to spend for the residential sound insulation program with authorization for the runway 1634 program, the eventual expansion of the snow removal building, and a future snow blower. The application extends our authorization to collect the passenger facility charges from 2021 to 2023. The total new collection authority for application 5 would be approximately $1.9 million. Anything you want to say on that?
That's the,
That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, the summary of it there, so. So passengers pay that facility charge every time they use the airport. We have to say what we're gonna spend that on. We have said that we were gonna use it for the RSIP program. Now that we're not moving forward with the RSIP program, we need to put it towards something else. And those are the 3 projects that we selected to put it towards. And then also put an extension on there to 2023.
What is the current charge per passenger, and what is it going to increase to?
It's $450 right now, isn't it, Maria? And we don't know. There's a lot of talk of what it may increase to.
Is there a limit that they can cap out at?
Right,
I think that there was a,
450 is the cap right now, but no, there's no cap. They could go back and shoot for the moon with it, but it'd be kind of silly. And that's why we've had some problems with them trying to increase it. It just makes it harder for us when we're adding that on to each ticket in a smaller market like this. The larger airports would love to raise that quite a bit.
I think John's talked to us about that a couple times over the years.
Yep.
Because the fee is both ways, right? At
Yeah.
every connection?
Yeah.
You have that right? So, if they raise that fee substantially, that would add substantially to the ticket price. And the bigger airports with the great big expansion programs would like to see it. Whereas I think John has been of a mind that this is very reasonable for our market.
Well, a lot of the money from people of Great Falls, say, would be going to the larger airports than to fund
Right.
their large projects. So it's just not really fair to the passengers out of these smaller markets. We've worked through our trade organization and with our delegation and really tried to help educate why we don't think it's a good idea. And pretty much the rest of the state airports are on the same field as we are. They agree with us, so they've talked about it for years. There's no plan right at this moment to increase. Right now it's $450. We don't see it increasing until legislation would change that.
But your application doesn't have anything to do with the cost, it's
No.
just a reallocation.
Reallocation
From one
of what-
project to
Yep,
another.
Right.
Yep.
And an increase. An increase.
Of years.
Extension of years.
Extension appears to collect
Right.
as an increase of amount.
So right now, we've spent enough PFCs for projected through 21?
No, we keep collecting them. We're constantly collecting them, but we just have to say how we're gonna spend them. So since we had it towards the RSIP program for years out, and we're not doing RSIP, we're just reallocating it to these 3 different areas, to the runway, to the SRE building, and the future snow blower. and probably in that order. So we would spend on the taxiway, then we would move to the SRE building, and then to the snow blower.
Okay.
Is there a reason you have to extend the application though?
As long as we're doing one, we may as well extend it.
Is there an advantage?
Sure.
Every year, we collect about $700,000 from the PFC. And originally from 1992 when it was started, it was about 15 million. So, and that 15 million was are supposed to be expended on airport projects, okay? And right now, the previous applications 1, 2, 3, and 4 is supposed to be collected up to 2021. The 1.9 million that's been added for the purchase of the snow blower, those 3 items there, that's the 1.9 million, and that will extend the collection up to 2021. 21 to 23.
Do you have to extend it so that you had the 1.9 million, is that why?
No, it's just like for practical reasons. We could probably collect it earlier, but in case we don't collect it, we have the time to collect it.
It just gives us more time
It just gives
to
more
collect it
time.
and pay towards that.
'Cause we
Quite
could-
honestly, before 2023, we will probably be doing another application.
That's what I was going to say. We seem to recall from a prior meeting that if there is a compelling reason to change that or raise that cap, we can redo that at any time, reapply, re-request it. Is that right? Any other questions or comments? Looking for a motion to approve?
I move that we accept the PFC application number 5 as written.
Second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded that we accept the staff recommendation for the new passenger facility charge application as presented. Any other questions, comments, discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. The next 2 items on the agenda both deal with task orders for different projects. First one is for the final design for runway 1634. And we are I'm going to ask Laura or Rod to speak to this in a second here, but we're looking to approve task order 14 for the final design of runway 1634 in an amount not to exceed $334,292. So, who would like to speak first on this one?
I will, or do you want to?
I don't think, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, both of these task orders, and they're separate votes, but they're for engineering services for projects that we have coming up. So the first one is for engineering services for the design for the taxiway project. There are some critical issues that need to be determined, and it needs to be backed by engineer services. I know you've read that in the summary with how the water is shedding, and if they're going to ask us to change that and fund that, or if they're going to approve a modification to the standards. So they've asked us, the FAA has asked us to pull the trigger on the design sooner than later so that we can get these questions answered, so that we'll be ready to hit the ground running. With both of these task orders, and I know that we've gone through this before, but just to refresh you, we get an amount from the engineer, from CH2M, who is our airport engineer. They give us an amount that they are going to do the service for. We go out and we do an independent fee estimate, which is a standalone firm then that can tell us what they would charge for it. It's almost always lower than what the original bid is for from the engineers. We look through and we find where we can have some cost savings. This is a process that's required by the FAA. And then we negotiate with the engineer and get the price down And so that second sheet that you see on both of these task orders just is the record of negotiations that we have to show and turn into the FAA every time we have something like this.
Just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
Laura, that independent fee estimate, is that something we arrange?
We arrange it, yeah, we go
We
find
pay for
someone,
that?
and
You
we pay
that
for it.
estimate? And they know it's just an estimate, it's not an actual bid?
Right.
Right,
Right. And sometimes they don't understand something, you know, they get a scope of work, sometimes they don't understand, you know, part of it, and they will bid too low or too high, or, you know, they'll put an estimate in too low or too high, and so we work through those different things, but we almost always get some savings through the IFE process. And then on the, actually, I guess we can just stop on that first one. Do you have anything to add on that task order 14?
Well, on 14, during the negotiations and the independent fee estimate, the independent fee estimate was about 14% higher. So went through their spreadsheets, and this is just kind of a summary of all the different tasks and scopes. But the independent analysis was 13% higher, and you can see where the independent fee estimate was compared to what CH2M Hill proposed. And they were pretty close. There was some stuff higher in the independent fee. So during the negotiations, you know, we determined that CH2M Hill had a fair price. So that one wasn't changed. We kept CH2M Hill's price of $334,292, where the independent analysis came back at $381,870. So after going through everything, it looked like it was pretty fair, so we just kept that one the same.
Do you guys have questions on 14?
So you just go through and negotiate each independent section of it?
Right. So today we just want approval for this final design of the runway for that $334,292 amount for this task order.
The only part I don't understand is it looked like the independent was less than Rod. Am I just misunderstanding the spreadsheet?
The independent analysis was higher. It was $381,870. And CH2M Hill, on the amount requested column, was $334,292.
And Dan, the independent one's enumerated in number 5. Number 4 is CH2M's initial proposal. So theirs is the lower one.
Okay.
So that's all that's needed then to seal the deal on this.
Right.
On this portion. Okay.
I'm just ever so slightly confused.
Okay.
The FAA wants a crown runway, ours sheds to one side. And whether or not we can keep the shed is still in question. But doesn't that have a heck of an impact on our design? I mean, isn't that gonna make just an unbelievable difference?
It
Whether
will.
we have to do this versus that?
It will, and that's what the FAA has to decide too, if they're willing to, based on the engineering, how much does it affect, and are they willing to pay for it, or do they want to approve a modification? So those are the things that we have to decide up front to know.
Okay. I keep forgetting the FAA pays for everything.
90%.
I keep thinking we're paying,
It's 10, we pay for 10%.
10%.
but they're, right, but they are.
We are.
Well, granted,
Yeah.
but, so we're gonna spend $300,000 to give the FAA data so that they can make a decision whether to spend an incredible amount of money or an incredible amount more.
That's a really good summary there, Sean.
But this covers the design.
The design of
It's
it
not just
altogether.
for that,
Right.
for the crown versus the shed section, it's for the complete design of the runway. So if they design it as a shed section,
And the FAA says crown it, then
Crown
they're
it,
gonna
then
redesign
there
it
could
at no
be
charge?
some more.
Or are we gonna
a little
pay
more
another
design into
300,000?
it.
Well, but they know that that's part of this, and they will be working with the FAA as they're working through this design.
So there'd be a preliminary stage, at which point the engineer would work with FAA to say, here's crown, here's shed to one side,
Yep.
here's our estimated cost.
Right,
Then the FAA presumably would say, we choose one option or the other.
right,
Finalize the design.
right.
And this was with CH Hill?
CH2M Hill, yes.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Looking for motion to approve the staff recommendation approving task order 14 for the final design of runway 1634 and an amount not to exceed $334,282.
I would so move.
Second?
I second.
Any additional comments, questions?
I have one more question. With the previous loaning of $285,000 to Sydney, are we confident that our engineer and the FAA can come to an agreement and neither one of them will change their mind?
Yeah.
Is this standard procedure?
It's
They
a-
interact well and play nice with each other?
The 200,000 would come off of this year's
Entitlement.
entitlement. The runway project is fiscal year 16 project.
Okay. It just seems to me the FAA changes its mind a lot.
It depends on who needs the money most, I guess, at the
Okay.
time.
Well, this has nothing to do with Sydney, my question is, does our design engineers and the FAA, are we confident that they can put something together that the FAA won't arbitrarily change its mind?
I think it's like an allowance that we have from the FAA, and then we don't get our allowance this year, we give it to Sydney, and then next year Sydney's gonna give their allowance to us.
We're
That's how I-
confident.
That's how I look at it.
Okay, I'm
We're
not talking
confident.
about Sydney, right?
No, we're confident that they
I'm
will work
worried
through
about
this.
the independent engineering design company and the FAA.
We're confident that they will work well together and get a plan that is acceptable for all parties. We've haven't found an acceptable way forward.
Okay, that's what I
This
wanted
money
to
is
know.
paid for, the design services is paid for, again, 90/10 by FAA and us. And then, let's say they didn't work well together. It's a complete waste of money, but then it stops there and there's nothing more that we're entitled to do. But we have a high priority on the taxiway, so it really, and when the FAA tells you that you have a high priority for something, you're pretty much guaranteed. Now, anything could happen in this country that could stop the way that the FAA is working, but we'd have bigger problems at that time. So, yeah, I mean, we feel very confident in what we're proposing here, that it will work as we're saying.
Okay.
So,
And we're only funding the engineering side of it.
right.
We're not funding the construction
You guys will
costs.
still be voting on the other stuff coming up. After we have a design and after we know and bids and on all of that, you'll still be voting on that into maybe even next year, probably next year. Yeah.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for all those in favor of approving the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes as recommended.
So with task order 15, then, exact same process, had the IFE, and this one is $293,917. And this is to have an engineer present on site during construction for the entry exit road project in Value Park. And that's because FAA dollars are being used in it. We're required to have an engineer present during the construction. So we went through same IFE process and came to the 293. You can see on that second page that the IFE came in higher again, Rod?
Yeah, the IFE was higher, but then negotiated them down on task 1B and task 2. H2 Hill was a little high on those two tasks, so we negotiated that down to come more in line with the independent fee estimate. So we did shave off about 8,000 there. But the independent fee estimate was again about 14% higher, which I guess that,
It's usually pretty rare to have
Yeah.
it come in higher.
yeah, usually we negotiate the other way, but.
Right.
So we were able just to shave a little bit off there and determine the rest of it was a fair price.
So we're recommending approval of the task order 15 for construction management for the entry exit road project in Value Park expansion, not to exceed $293,917.
You have
Questions?
to have an engineer involved or an engineer?
Present.
Present. That's a FAA requirement?
If you're using FAA dollars, you need to have an engineer present.
So is this person the project manager, or is this just a guy hanging out?
He's got a job. He's quality control. He's making sure that everything's being done to FAA standards. But, you know, the construction company, whoever's doing that, is still managing the project. But the engineer is just making sure that everything's being followed. You know, we had a good example years back on the runway where the engineer said the load that was being brought in, and I can't remember all the details of it, but there were some problems with the material that was being brought in. And so that was just a quality control issue that we had to, you know, stop sooner than later and make some changes to it before it's too far down and then it's not to FAA standards, which are very high standards.
So is it the CH who's supplying the engineer?
Yep. CH2M Hill is our airport engineer contract right now. They have 1 year left on their contract. We did a 5-year contract with them.
Thank you for the background.
Yep.
On that, very helpful. And then that's summarized also, that's on the bottom half of this attachment. Right? I think you all saw that in your packet there. So, looking for a motion to approve the action as recommended.
I motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the staff recommendation approving task order 15 for construction management for the entry exit road project and the Value Park expansion not to exceed $293,917. If there's no other questions or comments, I'll ask for all those in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, motion is approved. Let's see, then we are back to the communications line. A revision on that is the Zayo group?
Zayo, yeah.
It's been a couple of years almost since we talked about this, so I asked Laura if she might just, for the benefit of the newer commissioners in particular, kind of give us some background on this.
So in 2013, the Zayo group approached us and they wanted to construct, install, and maintain a communications line underground. And they needed an easement for that. So we were looking at, and our map is gone, I'm not quite sure where it went, but you have the sheet after the second page of this item. And their plan was to run down our entry road, and then when they got to about the 911 center, they would jet back and go over some private property, and also, or I guess, and they had looked at also running with MDT land. So they had some different options there. We went ahead and we approved it. After talking with Mick, we decided that rather than an easement, we wanted to do a permit that was revocable. You know, on the corner there, we have some land that we want to develop, and so if the lines caused any problem going forward, we wanted them to be responsible to move the lines, and hopefully we would just give them a different spot, but if we couldn't, then we could just pull it all together. So they have gone on since November of 2013 and tried to get permission or an easement with private landowners and with MDT. And it has been pretty difficult for them to move forward in this process. So they came back to us and said, we want to change our plan. And they haven't done anything in the ground. They've been paying us, but they haven't done anything yet. So what they want to do is go around the back of the airport instead. So instead of going down the entry road, they'll go back and around the perimeter. So it'll just be on our property line going around the back. So truly, it shouldn't affect us or anything that we want to do back there because it's just on our property line. If it does affect anything, we still have the same safeguards in place where we can revoke it at any time or make them move the lines for anything that would come up for us. So they would go back and around our property, which would add about 14,350 linear feet onto the length of the ground that they would need to put their lines in. With that distance, it would add, let me see here, right now they're paying us $600, and it comes to about 13 cents per linear foot. And so to add that extra land on, it would be almost $2,500 annually that we would be collecting from them for this permit. So we would recommend approving this really because we really don't see that it will affect us and that we have the safeguards there that if it does, we can move it, do what we need to do. If we can also tell them at any time, if we do pull the permit, that they need to return anything above ground, they need to pull out. And of course, as they're doing it, they need to reseed and put everything back to how they found it. So that would be our recommendation, is to move forward, let us amend this permit for them and go forward.
Am I missing something? What is the purpose of the communication line? What, is it for private industry or?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually, the Zayo group does this part for them, but it's actually Verizon.
So would it be a correct or a stretch to say it's actually, we prefer it going around the back?
It didn't really bother us around the front either because we're not really doing anything down that. It's such a thin slice that we have down the entrance road, but I mean, we'll certainly take more money to go around the back. And then it makes it easier for them too, because where it ends, then they're on county property and the county is proving to be easier to work with for them. So, did you have anything to add, Rod?
No, just going around the back, it made a lot more sense to us because there's very little chance we'll have to cross it or dig it up or anything, where if we went this way, you know, there's more developable property out this way that might disturb it, or we have to move it or, you know, do something. But this will be just right along our perimeter fence there, and might be many, many years before anything would ever disturb it back there.
It's inside the fence though.
Inside the fence.
So they disrupt a few entrance ways, they take care of all the disrupted areas?
Yeah.
Put it back to the
Yeah, and that's in our permit, that they will bring the ground back to,
Not just if they have to pull it out, but during the installation.
oh, yeah,
Yes.
yep, both.
And so the permit is still actually a 20-year permit, and it was already issued, and we're talking about amending it.
We would just amend it for the distance and the amount. Everything else would stay the
Stay the
same,
same.
yes.
Okay. Any questions on that? Comments? Okay, we're looking for approval of the staff recommendation revising Zales permit and allowing a revised path for the communication lines, resulting in an increased yearly fee based on the linear square feet. The revised fee would be $2,484 annually. Get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Take the recommendation as presented. Any comments, questions? If not, I'll ask that all in favor of the motion, comment by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion passes. I believe that is all of the items on our
It's fast,
agenda.
huh?
Yeah. See what happens when the chair's not here? Get this done very quickly. So let's move on to, because we have also a few other faces in the room here, Airport Authority Board comments. Start with you.
None.
None?
None.
None for me. That was even faster. Public comment. Do we have anyone present who wishes to make public comment on anything? If you do, I ask that you step up. This is our microphone, right?
Yes.
Okay. Step up and introduce yourself and state your name and address. No comments this time? Any general comments from the audience members?
One thing I might add, my name is Fred Lawlisher with Morrison Merrill Engineers, and I'm involved with this whole FAA process. And I would be happy to maybe do a short presentation with you folks to give you a background of how the whole FAA funding process works and how consultants are involved. I see that a lot with airport boards and city commissions and whatnot, that they really don't understand the process very well and the reasoning why you need inspectors and those kind of things. So if that's something you're interested in, why don't you let these folks know, and I'd be happy to do a
Thank
10-minute
you.
presentation at a meeting sometime.
Always looking for education.
Yeah,
I'll take you up on that.
it can be a can of worms.
Like I said, it's pretty foreign to the way most of us find our business run, so it's
It
very
is,
interesting.
and it's difficult to understand the terminologies, entitlement funds versus passenger facility charges versus, you know, all the other things that are involved. And it's, for you to make good, sound decisions, I think you need to have a good background on how that works.
Retreat,
Pardon?
part of the retreat.
Retreat, yeah. We have to retreat again, retreat to a retreat. If there's no other comments, then I will declare this board meeting adjourned. And should we take a brief break?
Just a brief break, please.
How about 5 minutes, is that good?
That'll work.
And then we'll move into our work session.
Okay.
I suspect it should be without that.